Sorry. Start again. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so my name is Earl Moore. I'm with the Pender County ITS department, and we're going to go over a PDQ deploy today. I've been with the ITS department with Pender County for 10 years. I started off as a tech, so during that time, pretty much had to install software, countless pieces of software all over the place, and running around to different machines, remoting to machines. We've all done that, right? So as I kind of moved up the ladder a little bit, I started dabbling with group policy. And one of the things that I've always had issues with group policy is deploying applications. Has anybody ever tried that with GP? Anybody ever had success with that with GP? Kind of a little bit. All right, so I started researching because I got tired of trying to do it with group policy. I actually found this application, which we're going to talk about today, called PDQ deploy. I'm not going to waste time because most of this is actually going to be demoing the software. I have a 15-slide presentation I'm going to show you right quick, just to kind of give some of the, is the mic too loud?
No, you're good.
Is it okay? Cool. All right, so what is PDQ deploy? Well, for starters, it's one of two software pieces actually put out by a company called Admin Arsenal. They're out of Salt Lake, Utah. And it's basically a tool for deploying software to multiple computers simultaneously. Saves you time so you don't have to go around to each computer or even remote in. All right, so why use it? It's a heck of a lot easier than GPO, just saying. Is what it is. All right, so I also left out that it's a lot cheaper than System Center and other products. So the free version is free, no cost. We're going to get to a few things here. The pro version is about $225 government discount. So we'll go over what that means as far as pro versus free. So, and I'm going all over the place. So, come on now. All right, so there's about 3 steps with deploying applications. Real simple. We're first going to create a package. And what is a package? So a package is basically a means to deploy the software to targets. Targets are your end computers, right? So a target basically consists of steps. With the free version, you only get one step, which is the install step. Most people are probably not going to need more than the install step. In the install step, you can basically link to the exe file shell series. You have all the notes in PowerPoint, but you can't read them when it's back there. All right, so like I said, the package is created. Moving forward. Just a quick little thing on the package library. The package library is something new that they've started. It's available with the free version, but there's only about 6 little packages that you can download. It's pre-packaged applications. With the pro version, you get, I think it's the basic subscription, which you can download like Java 725. It's got a lot of different steps, things like that. So what files are actually supported? MSI, of course everybody knows what the MSI package is, right? If you don't, it's actually the basic installer. MSP, which is patches, you can deploy those. MSU are patches that are from Vista up. Exe files, everybody knows what exe file is. PowerShell, you can deploy PowerShell, but you have to have PowerShell on the computer that you're deploying to. VB script, of course, lets you do all kinds of cool administrative things, tasks. Bash file, the same thing, and regedit. So you can actually push out a registry key. So if you have a registry key on computer A and you want to push it to 100 computers at DSS, you can do that from this, so you don't have to go and import that in every computer. So, of course, being that this is deploying to 100 computers, you don't want your users calling and saying, what do I click next? Right, so silent installation. Now, silent installation is basically an installation that does not require user interaction. The user never sees it. It just kind of, you push Chrome, which we're going to do, it magically appears on their desktop, right? So the kicker about silent installation is that you have to know what your switches are if you're using exe files. MSI packages are kind of standard, but sometimes you do have to have switches for those, such as Java. So where can you find those silent install switches? Well, product documentation. A lot of times the admin manual will have the documentation, will have the silent switches and how you install it silently. Web searches such as Adobe Acrobat, silent install, right? You follow me? Okay. So you can also ask the installation package, and what I mean by that is that if you open up the command prompt, you navigate to the location of the exe file, right? So you type in the title of the exe file, so whatever.exe space / question mark, it'll usually pop up with a list of switches, right? So that's not always 100%, though, I'll warn you. The admin arsenal forums and their blogs, they do have a lot of information about things such as Java. I mean, Java is like a pain in the butt to install, right? So I want to kind of breeze through this too, so just forgive me for going too fast. All right, so step 2, choose your targets. Targets are basically computers identified on the network. Who do you want to install it to? That's your targets. Targets can be chosen manually. You can key them all in if you want to enter all 1,000 computers in there. You can also pull them from AD, PDQ inventory, which is another software that Admin Arsenal does. SpiceWorks, for anybody that uses SpiceWorks. A target list, which we'll talk about next, and a text file. So if you have a text file with all the computers that you want to deploy to, you can point to that text file, pull that in, and deploy to those, right? All right, so what are target lists? They're basically, again, a list of computers that you want to target. So a target list aside is, can be chosen each one, or you can actually pull from AD, SpiceWorks, all those third parties that we just mentioned, right? Now, there's also a link target. What a link target is let's say that you had an organizational unit in your group policy organization, and for health, you want to publish, let's say that you want to, let me back up and stutter here a little bit. If you want to push to, let's say, everybody that uses NCFast or host on, let's say host on demand, that's a better option. Well, you can go and actually point at that organizational unit you haven't set up. If you had an organizational unit for all of your food stamps folks, I'm just going to skip around here, pardon me. You can point at that and it's dynamic, so it'll actually go and change the list every time you add or remove a computer, right? That makes sense? Follow me? Okay. I'm kind of stutter too, so just forgive me. All right, so step 3, deploy. Our options are deploy once, which is your basic deployment. So I got all my targets, I got my package ready, I got my targets, now I'm going to deploy it. So that's basically your standard deployment. Redeploy, okay, so I've deployed a package to 10 computers, and for some whatever reason I want to do it again. It didn't fail, I just want to do it again. So you can redeploy. Now, if you're going through and say 5 or 10 computers fail, you can redeploy to just those failed computers. There's also a tool for troubleshooting that'll tell you why they failed, firewalls on or whatever reason, okay?
Which is happening.
So, next, enjoy a tasty beverage and watch the software deploy. Come on, that's funny, laugh. I laughed at it. And remember, always test it out, preferably on your boss's computer. Yeah, see, the little, I'm not responsible if you decide to test it. No, seriously, make sure to test it out before you push out an application to like 100 computers or more. I don't think your technicians, or if you are the technician, you really don't want to go and do, uninstall or troubleshoot that. So, one of the things that we've done, being that we're a virtual environment, is if you have a Windows 7 or XP, test it on both, that's always best, just to make sure. Like I said, always test it out. I was supposed to do that wrong, but whatever. All right, so I'm going to go over the pro features very fast, because I do want to, this class is kind of a mixture. I want to actually show you the software. That's where most of it's going to be. All right, so basically the use of the package library. Again, we talked about the package library. This is the paid for version, right? This is the $225 government discount paid version at this point. Okay. So it also lets you schedule deployments. So let's say that you want to install software X at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can do that, right? So let's say you want to do a nested package. What a nested package is a package that actually looks at other packages. So let's say that you have a lot of 50 computers come in. You've got them all set up in your room. You have a package for installing Acrobat. You have a package for installing this software, that software, running this command, doing that, doing this. This will do it. So you create a package that looks at all those commands and runs them in steps, okay? Just a better way, well, I wouldn't say a better way, but an optional way of deploying new softwares or packages to computers, okay? Follow me? So you can also apply conditions to package steps. So if you have a 32-bit and a 64-bit architecture out there, could be a different version of the OS, you can run a software basically on, if it's 32-bit, run this package. If it's 64-bit, run that package. Different conditions. You can also throttle bandwidth. So if you don't want to install applications when the users are actually working, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, it's usually when they are working, do it then. So you can also get an email after your deployment, so which ones failed, which ones succeeded, okay? And wake on LAN, so you can actually wake the computer up and install the application. So here's my contact information if you want to ask me any questions after the fact, or if you just want to say, hey, or spam me. And I just blank the screen. Admin Arsenal is actually where you can download the software from. You can get a 14-day trial of the Pro, and I do not work for the company, nor do I get any kind of kickbacks. I'm just letting you know, right? I just like the software that much. You can also get a quote doing quote.adminarsenal.com. The folks at the Admin Arsenal, the folks that actually own it are very, very approachable. I've been in contact with them quite a bit. They'll answer your questions in most cases. Very good folks. And enough of the PowerPoint, let's deploy some software. I'm going to be back here. Yes, ma'am.
225, is that like for full?
The pricing of the software is kind of funky. I'm going to be honest with you. The way that I read it is that it's whomever uses the software. If you only have one person that uses it, it's per person that uses it. We have it installed on the server at the shop. And basically it's just myself that does it in most cases. Maybe one or two folks, but that's the way they license it.
If you deploy everything,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We'll also have some other questions too. So if you do have any questions, please stop me. So I apologize for being back here, but all right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go over the software, kind of talk about what the interface looks like and everything. So this is PDQ deploy. All right. So it's a very simple layout. You've got the target list that we spoke of. We'll go over that in a second. But from the main screen, you can import and export. We'll talk about that for a second. So if you have a package that, say, you want to share with another county, municipality, or even another person, you can actually export that file. It exports as an XML file, so you can send that to them in email. They can import it, do the same thing. The only thing that they have to do is actually have those MSI packages, so you could zip it all up and send it to them that way. All right? Okay. So the menu is kind of basic. It's not going to highlight, of course, unless we do something to it. So let's go over target list really fast. So this is our target list. And I've got a couple I've only got one computer out here in my little lab, which is I call it a finance computer. This is a, yeah. So this is a linked target, right? This is our finance computers. It's actually linked to our Contoso, an organizational unit code called Contoso Computers, Desktops, Finance. So that way, if I add another computer, it's going to show up down here too. All right. So this is our package library. I'm not actually connected to the internet back here, so you'll be able to see that right away. So let's look at the packages right quick. So this is one that we created for Adobe Acrobat Reader 10. Got the package. There's some tabs up here. Actually shows you a bit about the package. All right, so that's our parameters, which we'll go into in a second. I can look at past deployments, which ones failed, which ones succeeded, and whatnot. Schedules, promo, together. You have that to do the schedules. So let's actually deploy this guy. Let's back up. Let's look at the package. So here's that one step that we have for the installation step for the exe file. Right now I've got it all local. You can put it on a shared folder if you need to, but it always has to, or to be able to access it, your users have to access it. So if it is shared, they have to be able to get to it to actually install the software. Right? So here's the package. Here is the parameters for this package, the Adobe Reader 10. That's pretty much it. You can also include additional files. So if we go to, let's find Java. Everybody see that okay? All right. So if you look at Java, with the way that Java has to be deployed, you have to actually run the exe file on a computer. You have to go into app data and grab the MSI package and the cabinet file, right? So the way that I actually store these is in a folder called JRE 1.7.45. There's the MSI package and there's the cabinet file, right? So there's an option here to actually include the entire directory. So it copies both the MSI package and the cab file over. Of course, it can't run the MSI package without the cab file. So this will include the entire directory. We pushed out open text write backs using this method to copy the whole folder over there because it does require so many different items, right, to actually install. So here are the parameters, and I'll be honest with you, I actually found, I watched a video on how to do this from the Admin Arsenal site, and actually showed what parameters to put in there. So with host on demand now supposedly requiring Java 7 update 45, that was kind of a big thing for us to do. And that was one of the reasons why I did this package. Does anyone have any questions so far on the package or anything like that? Have I confused you yet? Thoroughly confused yet? Come on, people, wake up, man. It's almost lunchtime. Well, let's get through this then. All right, so let's deploy this to the finance computer, just because that's the only one I have out here. So what we're going to do is we have our finance target list up here. We could either drag and drop this on top of the finance computers. It's going to list everyone in that target list. We can also go up here to deploy once, like we talked about. You can add a computer in here. You can also go to choose targets. I'm going to pull it from AD. Of course, if you click on Contoso here at the top, it's going to list all the computers in your forest. I don't like to do that if you've got 100 computers plus. You're going to be here all day. Personally, we at Pender, we do break ours up into organizational units because we do use WSUS. So I'm going to drill down here to finance because it's just the structure that I set up for this lab. It's got a little computer. So this way, go okay. The little checkbox basically means that, hey, I can see it, I can get to it, everything seems to be cool. The credentials, when you actually set up the software, it does prompt you for the admin credentials. You put in your AD credentials so that way it passes these on to the computer that you're deploying to. So we're going to go ahead and deploy now. actually goes on the client side, we'll go look in a second. It's going to try to connect to it first. Oh, it failed. Well, that's a good thing. Let's go see why it failed. So over here you have more information. If you click this, come up, and it's got a couple options. You can look at the online help. You can submit a ticket. You can also try the remote repair. Let's do that. So if it pops up, it gives you the option to analyze all the computers. So we're going to do analyze. So you're beating your head on the wall and trying to figure out what's going on. Now remember, it could see it on the network. It could resolve the IP address to the name. Or resolve the name to the IP address, rather.
Is this feature something that's in the free version as well, or is this just?
This is the free version, yes, sir. Great question. All right, so right now it's saying it could not connect to the IPC share, could not connect an access share, could create a service. It couldn't do anything really. It couldn't even, it basically got the computer hit a wall, right? So it doesn't, you know, you can go to help, you can try to figure out what's going on. Well, let's look at the obvious things. Hopefully it's on. Okay. So one of the big things that I've seen is the firewall's on, or could be on. Let's check it out first. It's actually off. Okay, it's got to play nice now. Usually the firewall is what keeps you from actually being able to deploy to it.
Does the user have to be signed on to do it, or can they be just doing it?
Yeah, I've actually booted that computer this morning. In most cases, they can be, you can actually do it without them having to be logged in. Yes, ma'am. You see that I went a long way on that? What I should and could have done is I actually came down here to the failed deployment and actually did redeploy the failed computers. All right, so now it's actually running. It did connect and it's running step one, which is our one and only step that we run with the free version. In a second, you should see it actually copying over.
Now that it's your computer? Hang on, I'm doing it myself. Just a second.
so it was successful. Now, of course, with Java, it doesn't really give you anything on the desktop in most cases, so we've got it here. And if we go into programs and features, got it there. All right. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Prompt the user, say you want them to know the install is happening, and you send out like a message prompt or status.
You talking about pretty much like a, just prompting them, letting them, hey, I'm getting ready to push out an application, some kind of
Say something that
notification.
you wanted to push out during the day, or give it to them optional, not force it.
There's no option.
Yeah. You could, if you had the pro version, you could set it up so you actually send out a command if you have the software to do it, or if you can tap into, I can't remember exactly what it's called. So you can, that would help me out here. It's a net SH command where you can send out for the person, you know, basically, you know, it's all about where you can actually prompt. I've never done it before, so I'm kind of at a loss on that one. It would actually be a step to run a command if you had even a third-party software that could do that. And you could do that as well. So basically, the question or the information was: is there a way to actually show part of the installation? Some packages do have the option of showing a progress bar or something like that. So it really depends on the application with that. In most cases, I usually just do it without them knowing, or say, hey, I'm getting ready to do this. We've got it so that our help desk person could do it as well if they chose to. We try to keep everything, just myself and our systems admin doing it if we needed to. Did everybody answer your question? Someone? Does anyone else have any questions?
Do you have a configuration management piece? Did I miss that? I mean, how do you know what you've put out and what you haven't?
That's a great question. So what you can do, and what I have done, is if you go to, excuse me, sorry, where's that? All deployments. I hope this answers your question here, but you could go through and actually see all the deployments. What packages you pushed out, was it successful, how many successful, things like that. You can also print this. So if you need to give this to management, or if you were management, you wanted to kind of put this in a report, you can print all this out. Never had the reason yet to actually do the printing, but it is available. Does that help?
Yeah.
Any more questions before we push out the room? Okay. So, being that some folks are having success with Chrome and NC-Fast, I put Chrome in here just for that reason. We've actually done this very same thing. So, same thing, you go through deployments, or again, we can actually choose to drag and drop this to our finance computers. Of course, finance wouldn't really care about Chrome, but now, if this will cooperate, I want to show you actually the process that runs in the background. So it starts with a little service, a little exe file rather. You can see it in the msixec.exe file running as well. So if we pull this over, it says it's successful. Oh, sorry, show us one more. So it's running right now. See the Google update out, exe 32 up there, that's done. And it's back. This is the watching the paint dry part here. This is one of the things where you would go and have a, cup of coffee or
With Samuel Jackson.
with Samuel Jackson. Yep. So there's Google Chrome. It's just going to do some cleanup. It should say successful here in a second. So we're good to go on that one. And as you can understand, the more computers you have to push the software out to, it is going to take longer. I'm pushing out to one computer right now, but I mean, it still saves a lot more time than actually having to go around and having to use a log on.
Does it do one at a time, or does it hit, say you put 10 computers in there all at the same time?
It will actually do multiples. If I'm not mistaken, it will do multiples at a time. So it's not just doing one and then doing another, but so I believe, so in the free version, it'll push to 8 concurrently at a time. Oh, excuse me, 32 concurrent targets per deployment, total concurrent targets, 32. So yes, it will actually do more than just one at a time.
So if you say roll out to like 50 computers, what kind of time frame we're looking at?
It really depends on what package you're pushing and everything. But how many computers you have to have as your targets.
You got like a bigger personal story about you pushing the package out, and just kind of like an ideal time frame.
Let's see. So you can, yes, sir. I'm trying to think of the biggest deployment that we pushed out. I can give you an idea of a few success stories, actually. We had a vendor coming on site, and this package that we used for our document management system, this is, we do have the free version, so I'm going to kind of preface it with that. We had to install, I think, the .NET framework. We had to run a command. We had to do quite a few things. So it was only 10 computers, but just the fact that users are working, you really don't want to interrupt them until you get to that point to where you have to kick them off their station and do something. And so we were able to create this package and deploy it to the 10 computers, rather. And this was a lot of different steps in there, probably less than an hour, I'm saying 30 minutes or so. So I mean, it does a great job. And depending on the speed of your network, speed of the server that's sitting on, we've actually got ours on a virtual machine with very little resources. And so far we've just actually upgraded to the newer version, and it does a heck of a job. I mean, I fought with, a lot of time. I fought with Acrobat Reader multiple times. We're trying to do group policy, could never get it to go. And like I was saying, once I found this, it's been great. I mean, I haven't found but maybe a couple things that I could not deploy, and I'm pretty sure I could do it if I had spent more time on it, but it kind of gets to the point where if you've got a couple of computers to do it on, do you go on site and do it, or do you spend the time to try to figure out? Now, if you're going to do it again, it might be worth the investment of time to sit there and kind of tinker with it a little bit. But most of the time, recently we had folks calling in when Host on Demand required Java 7 update 45, as everybody here I'm sure has been dealing with. We were able to deploy that in no time, instead of having to stop our techs from what they were doing and going out there and actually deploying the software. And plus, I mean, Java's the devil anyway, so, you've got to kick the person off if they're even there. We have a password policy, so we don't know the user's passwords. We could reset it if we wanted to, but that's a nightmare in most cases. So, also with Current Enterprise, the same thing with NC-Fast. I mean, Current Enterprise has helped us a lot as far as the speed of NC-Fast, it seems like. Our systems admin has done some work with that in the IE tab, which we actually, I think, did through group policy.
That's kudos to Adam.
You said that Adam Clemens come up with that from West County? Okay. So, I've got some more packages. I don't know if you want to, if you have any questions or if you want to go through doing a couple more things. Yes, ma'am.
Did you look at any other deployment software before you selected this?
I checked out System Center a little bit, but it was well beyond our means as far as budget. Being that this was free, it was kind of like a, you know, it was a very good solution to look at. And then we, you know, liked it so good, we ended up buying the pro version just because it does have a few bells and whistles. But for the average shop, I mean, if you just want to deploy software, you know, it's a great solution to at least, you have nothing to lose with going with the free version. You know, you go free and then you decide that you want to go with something else. You know, you can spend a little bit of money to do that.
What was the bell and whistle that made you go to the pro version?
I think it was the steps. Being able to run steps and different things like that. I'm going to actually stand up here. So the steps that it allows you to do, we found just being able to run commands. You know, instead of having to write a batch file, because since it will push out batch files, let's say that let's take group policy again. Let's say you an updated group policy, but you don't want to require the users to shut the computers down, and you can force them, force the update that way. We've created a step, it'll let you do command steps. And I didn't cover that either, so I'll go back to that in a second. So let's say that you want to run a command on the user's computer, say, like I said, to upgrade group policy, without creating a batch file that has to copy and then run, which you could do. This way, you can just push the command right from PDQ for them to upgrade to update their group policy, and without having to require them to reboot. So the different types of steps, like I was saying, but mainly being able to do one thing and then do another, or even deployments. I have not used the scheduled deployments much. The one thing I did like about the scheduled deployments is that if the deployment fails, you can have to go back and keep retrying until every computer is complete. So if you want to push out to all 100 computers, and I use 100 because we have 100 computers that have DSS, but if you want to deploy to, say, 100 computers, you want to try it and then redeploy to all the failed ones over and over and over until it finishes, you can turn the computers off. Yes, you can use the wait on LAN and different things, but you know, a user shuts their computer down to go home for the day on a Friday, and you decide to do it on a Friday, or over the weekend. Sorry. It will do wait on LAN, but I've actually, myself, I've never tried that.
We call that mixed bag.
It's very, very mixed. I mean, success on that is. Does anyone have any other questions?
How does it integrate in with the inventory? You guys, have you looked at the inventory software?
I'm actually glad you mentioned that. So we have used the PDQ inventory, the free version, just for specifically targeting. I'll be honest with you, I don't use the target list a whole lot at work. I've actually used the PDQ inventory. They've got a lot of features that was not in place when we first started doing this. But we've used PDQ inventory to target certain specific machines, such as like WIC. I'm just going to use them as an example again. Our naming scheme at Pender is such as HLT for health, B for Earl, which is where we're located, and then something like WIC for WIC, and then an incremental number 001, 2, 3, all like that. So what we've done over there is if we need to target a specific department, even a specific group of computers, you can actually use the inventory to push to whatever OS version. If they don't have, you can check to see if they don't have a software. So if they don't have Acrobat Reader X or 10 or 11 or whatnot, you want to actually deploy that. They have not. You can check for that specific software and push out to just those computers. So the inventory and the PDQ software go hand in hand. They integrate. I mean, they were made by the same company. They were made to work together. Like I said, we use both of them for different things. I've done some pretty nifty stuff as far as targeting specific computers, OS levels. I'll tell you one thing that may interest you. We had to shut down, this was before we were virtual, we had to shut down all of our physical servers to literally move the equipment out. We were doing some work on it. Excuse me, this was a different thing. This was when we were doing some electrical work. Being a Saturday, nobody wants to stay as long as they have to. You know, you kind of want to do it and get Well, the electricians were slated to start at a specific time, but we had to stay pretty much up until the library was closed at, I think, 2:30. What we did was create a target list of computers, of servers rather, the ones that could go down first, second, third, and actually just schedule it to deploy. Okay, at 2 o'clock, shut all these down because nobody uses them. 2:30, go ahead and shut the rest of them down. You can do it per operating system. So, as you know, the shutdown commands for 2003 are different from 2008. So you target these computers and then those computers. So, we've kind of done some nifty stuff with them, and most of it is just trial and error for us. I mean, the software has been a blessing. We probably use it on at least a weekly basis. You get to a point where you don't have to push out software on a daily basis any longer. Like I said, I haven't found too many things yet that we cannot deploy with it. I mean, you know, for like us, we can't really afford System Center or anything like that right now. It can't be free. You can't even beat the $200 and some that it costs for the software to do this. So.
They talked about more enterprise, kind of like a single pane of glass, and that would move forward, you know, automatic software patching, all that kind of stuff.
You know, I haven't actually asked them that, but I will. That's a very good suggestion, just to kind of have, well, you can do a little of both in inventory. So from inventory, if you have a group of computers, you can do right click, and I think it's deploy to computers. I've actually got it up, we can look at it too. But you can kind of do a little bit from both. But as far as a single pane of glass of doing both softwares, that would be a very nice thing to do, even if it was like a shell that you could download and run both. That's a very good suggestion. Yes, you can. The package library does have an option that I've seen that will let you do anything that you can. Any switches that Java has, for example, Java has a ton of switches, if I'm not mistaken. You can do it like the package, like, I'll bring that up in a second, actually, we'll look at that, because I think we have a little bit of time so far. Does anyone have any other questions? I want to get back to yours, though, because I think that would be beneficial. It is a one-time cost, and then you can pay for support. So I think for us, we pay about, I think it's $80 a year for support. And the package library is kind of like a sliding scale depending on which, like for basic, remind me to pull that up too, because I don't want to tell you wrong. But yes ma'am, you pay for support, and they're, like I said, they're very helpful. And I haven't had an issue with it yet so far. Any other questions so far? Did you get any benefit out of it so far? Could you see this in your organization actually? So let me go back and let's pull that back up. You can install some more software if you want to. So this is a website. They've got a fairly simplistic and easy to use website. package library first. Slowly. The one thing I did want to mention is that the one thing that I've really found is that you have to have some kind of we use AD back at the shop, so you pretty much have to have Active Directory in place. I would love to use this at home to deploy that to computers, because I do work on computers on the side. I think most of us do. This will not do it for you. You pretty much need to authenticate against that, against AD to deploy that to the target computers. All right, so this is the package library on the website. It's getting there. Watching the paint dry.
You need to dance like that.
No, I don't think you want me up there
No
dancing.
dance like that.
No. So it looks like this isn't going to play nice with us. I would encourage you to really check it out just to see what's available. Like you were saying, there are some things that you can do with it. As far as I think, you can actually install software as well as install it. It's just all knowing the switches. The switches can really get you. I just want to warn you in advance. If you don't put the proper switches in there, it will either fail on you or it will seem to run indefinitely. Or just sitting there running like that. It just will not deploy. It does take a few times to actually get it right. But once you do, you'll save time in the future until they come up with a new version of the software and do it again. So I'm going to open it up for questions. You were asking about the cost of it. The website's going to actually play nice with you today. So if you will shoot me an email with any questions that I have not answered, and I'll do my best to get answers to you. But I'm going to open up the floor for any other questions that anyone may have.
You don't have to install like client, right? Everything authenticates to AD, you said?
Sorry?
You don't have to install like client PCs?
You do not, no sir. What it does is as soon as it actually, if you're able to get at that computer, authenticate against it, it sees all the shares and everything. Like I said, it starts a little exe on that computer to deploy to. There's a handshake between the server and the client. Nothing to install on the client. Yes, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
How does it deal with remote reboot after certain installs?
Now, I will tell you this. There is a step, and I'm not trying to push the pro version. I'm just telling you what's available. So the pro version does have a shutdown step. It will shut down and actually wait for that connection to come back before it tries to connect again. So, I mean, that's kind of how that would be handled. The free version, like I said, the free version, being free, it is a little bit limited, but you know, really for the money, it's not bad. Anyone else? Andy Takers. Yes, sir. work with Windows 8? From what I understand, it does in the system requirements. I haven't actually personally done anything with Windows 8 yet. I try to stay away from it. We'll see. I'm starting to tinker with Server 2012 right now, but I think I'll stick to 2008 R2. But like I said, it works great in a virtualized environment, at least as far as server. Will this work in a VDI type environment? I'm sure it could. I wouldn't see if you lied to them. I mean, if you have physical PCs, this to me is the best way of doing it. This saves you a lot of time. Any other questions? We could sit here for another 10 minutes, or I can let you go ahead and get your lunch. I do want to say thank you for everyone. This is my first time actually instructing at Nicolegiza. So please, thank you.
Good job.
Please give me your feedback, good and bad. You can only get better if you know what you're doing wrong. So, again, thank you all for coming. I hope you use the software, at least test it out and try it out. If you have questions, I can put my email address back up here, but email me and or ask me in the hallway or around, and I'll try to help you out the best way I can, or at least try to know days so we can get your questions answered. Thank you.